Joining us to further discuss the State of Capture report, and of course we invite you at home as well on 011-542-2186, and you can tweet at ANN7TV or at I am Cindy Mabi. And now we're joined in studio by Sfiso Mahlangu, a political analyst, Botsang Muilwa as a political analyst, Mzwanele Manyi, Decolonization Foundation convener, and joining us on the line is Nzigi Mpulo from Section 27 on the phone. As I hear Omar, constitutional lawyer, to all of you, thanks indeed for joining us. You were saying, Mzwanele, off air, that I should just ask you this to give us a summary of today's report and what you think of it.
Yeah, indeed. I actually think it's an anticlimax, to be quite honest. That report is really a confirmation that it truly rushed through this thing. It's actually, I think even to call it a report is an upgrading. This thing, what it is just a collation of complaints that have been untested. This report is fraught with, if this is true, may have, and it's got all the ifs and buts and so on. And eventually it recommends that a proper report must be conducted. And I think it's also important to make a note of the fact that the initial intention was to do a state capture report. But what we have here is actually not even if you have to upgrade it to a report. This is not a state capture report. This is a report about the Gupta family largely and their involvement with the president, and that cannot constitute a state capture. President himself is not a state, so there are two things that should happen out of this. Firstly, the president must respond whether he accepts this collation of complaints and does what is recommended, or the president takes this thing on review. So I really think that up until the president has made up his mind in terms of how he wants to proceed, it's premature for anything else that the country is busy talking about right now.
So, sis, are you of the view that it's essentially a progress report on the state capture matter in the evolution of Jacob Zuma's relationship, cozy relationship with the Guptas, in then violating the ethics or the codes of the executive, that there was some wrongdoing? Is this just the summary of the progress in terms of the matter?
It really looks and sounds like a collaboration of unhappiness or disgruntlement among people who work together. ABC Jonas has said this and this, and whomsoever has said this and this. And so it's a compilation of hearsay. I think what South Africans partly, particularly opposition parties, were looking for was a smoking gun to say this much was deposited in this man's account and here we have the receipts, and to take a man to prison. But what this is today is disappointingly a progress report on conversations that people had. I mean, a conversation between President Zuma's son and a deputy minister. Hi, sir, when can we meet? I'm still busy at the moment. Let's meet on Thursday. SMS on Thursday. Are you still busy? Let's meet next week. Oh yeah, that's a state capture. I think what people really forget is that when we talk about the state, we're not talking about an individual. We're not talking about a family. A state is the executive, the legislature. A state is the justice system, the judiciary. A single individual, the president, or a single family, the Gupta family, cannot capture the entire judicial system of this country. And I think people were looking for a trump card in this, something to grandstand. And Ms. Madonsela could not give them that. It was hearsay. She says she under-budgeted. I think which opens a lot of holes to say, why didn't you just do the handover process and let Ms. Mkhwebane deal with it? Why did you have to under-merit the report so much so that it is her who takes it to the finish line? Was it so important for her to be the one who signs the last page? But
I must say, it was just the whole story is created so beautifully, and it starts off with the villain and some heroics in part that, based on media reports, and we don't know the origins thereof, and the build-up of stacking the issues or allegations or insinuations of how the president had orchestrated for the Guptas to benefit in this and the other. At the end of it, it didn't come across that there was a conclusive report on the part of the public protector to vent out or to ventilate the media reports and allegations in it.
You know, Cindy, good evening to you. Good evening,
Good evening
to your listeners. And when I came here, I said to people, I'm smiling all the way to the studio. And I'm smiling because the report is out. The climax is gone. This is the art of war. You cannot go into a battle with a half-loaded pistol. What has happened here, and I've said it sitting on this chair the day the public protector released the report. I said on that day, until the day of the release and the signing off, it was known to South Africans as a preliminary report until the last day. And when I said that, I said the timing of saying it's a final report was very questionable. We are sitting as a nation at the moment with something that I will never regard as a report. I've been in the public service for more than 20 years. That can never be a conclusive report whereby it is actually a recommendation of what needs to be done for it to be a final report. You know, there's a recommendation that a judge should be appointed in order to come with investigations and all those things. It can never be a conclusive report. But what I've observed since this morning, I want to go a little bit towards the case with the president withdrawing. I was sitting here last night and I said to the nation, watch what is going to happen tomorrow. The president knows what he's doing. The withdrawal of the report was very clear to the nation that it does not hold water. There's still a lot of work to be done. I said the Odi Atem Patem rule was never followed with the report. It will be followed now because if a commission of inquiry is being set and a judge is recommended by the Chief Justice and appointed by the President, they will have to call all those people who are implicated and mentioned there. They will have to be interviewed. So there's a judicial and administrative process that needs to be followed for this so-called report to become a final and binding report. But I'm disappointed as a South African citizen, and I'm saying I've looked at the opposition parties, I've looked at Julius Malema, I've looked at the DA. They seem disgruntled, they seem lost. Julius has actually said they are not happy with the outcome of this report because it recommends that somebody must be appointed. The only thing they're banking on is that the person will be appointed by the Chief Justice and not by the President. That's all they're banking on.
Let's test that exactly, the remedial action from a public protector or a former public protector saying that the judiciary, or rather the judge needs to, that's going to facilitate this particular inquiry, needs to be appointed or recommended by Chief Justice Mogoeng. By law, is this permissible, Mr. Omar?
Look, I've read the remedial action suggested by the public protector, Advocate Madonsela. Now, if we examine paragraph 8.2, the public protector says that her investigation was hamstrung because she lacked sufficient funds. So the first question that comes to mind is whether the recommendations were based on reason, whether the recommendations are not irrational because of the concession that the investigation was hamstrung. But let's go further. Let's go to recommendation 8.4. Now, 8.4 is a recommendation which prescribes to the Chief Justice to only recommend one judge. Now, the recommendation not only usurps the powers of the President and the governing party, who is the voice of the majority of the people in South Africa, but also dictates to Treasury. Now, what this recommendation resembles, it resembles the days of the tricameral system in our country. During the days of apartheid, the apartheid national party said, you can have a democracy, you will govern your territory, but the only difference is we'll tell you how to govern. So this recommendation is nothing more or nothing less than an attempt to want to have the courts govern our country through the instruments of people who are not the voice of the majority of the people in our country. This whole saga, this recommendation, this investigation has one and only one objective, that is to erode away at our young democracy and to have us continue to be governed by a small group of people who wish to continue the monopoly of the resources of this country. You will remember when Minister Zwane, he merely murmured a discussion he had with other leaders in the ANC. And that caused an uproar. More specifically, Minister Zwane mentioned a discussion he had concerning the establishment of a commission of inquiry to investigate the capture of our state by the banks in our country. This investigation also involved investigating the extent of control the Ruperts, the Oppenheimers, the Glencores and the Anglo-Americans have on our country. This report clearly is the subject matter of a review. The recommendations are underpinned by that which is irrational and arbitrary. Faiki Mentua's confession at court that she was not reminded of the consequences of giving evidence and her inability to be cross-examined, that in itself alone is a ground for review. And all parties concerned, everyone concerned, agreed yesterday that that was indeed a grounds for review, which means this whole report and the recommendation will have to be seized by a court of law, and the court, it will be argued that the recommendations were done over hastily, it's prematurely released, and it purports to impose an obligation on a commission of inquiry. A commission of inquiry is another institution of forum
we'll come back to that, Mr. Omar. Just hold that thought, if you will. I want to engage our panelists as well, that in the haste, and this was discussed prior to the talk of the release of the Public Protector's report, that the pragmatic thing to do is rather to hold off and then pass on to her successor, and that wasn't done. And we're dealing with a report that largely speaks of observations which are not binding. The remedial actions are binding, and yet it's all over the place. I mean, I don't...
Yeah, no, I mean, I think truly, once again, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, I think she was very spiteful to the incoming public protector twice. Firstly, by last-minute decision to make this report final. She just wanted to make sure that the other one just becomes sterilized, does not know what to do with this report. All she has to do is just to implement. She goes further, that in fact the recommendation is that there must be a judge that does this, who's got the same power of a public protector. Again, she's malaligning Ms. Mkhwebane. How spiteful can you get? Why is Tuli so vindictive and so malicious? Why is she doing things this way? And again, even in the manner in which she's outlining what the judge should do in the recommendations, it's almost like a situation of putting people into conflict, where they just do as they please, and the president, who must be the person appointing this thing, is so emasculated, has got no real power to do.
Are you saying that she's encroaching on other machineries of state
she has,
by dictating what to do?
Yeah, she is conflicting the people that to be doing this thing. It's almost like even the terms of reference. I've just scanned through this thing very quickly, but my first read in it, it just conflates. In fact, it could make even the Judge Mogoeng's position very, very untenable, as it were. So I would really, from where I sit, we sit as a foundation, would recommend that the president must do all he can to make sure that this report is taken under review and is just nullified, and a proper report of state capture, the real state capture, should actually indeed ensue in this country. But what we have here is nothing near what it should be doing.
Yeah, the remedial actions also says that this report needs to be the preamble of the judicial inquiry. So they cannot deviate from this. It needs to be extended further. But having said that, maybe state capture in its entirety or broadening the scope, I'm not entirely sure if there's an avenue to bring it to that point.
Cindy,
so that we don't deviate. You know what I mean? Is there room for a broader approach towards state capture within the preambles of
public
this?
funds even? Because this particular report, one of Ms. Madonsela's recommendations is that Treasury must provide the funding for the commission to run. And the president must then report to one judge. That's almost suggesting that the office of the public protector has been left vacant by her leaving. You know, there is a new public protector. She has then assessed this report to go straight to the judge as if that office is empty, and now, you know, demanding extra funds for them to run in isolation from the office of the public protector. I don't know why it's so difficult for her and difficult for everyone involved to know and understand that she was not living in an ivory tower. And it's unfair for South Africans to believe, and martyr her because maybe she dealt with someone whom they couldn't deal with. There was an incumbent, there is someone in that office. And perhaps we should really, really encourage people to respect the rule of law and to respect Ms. Mkhwebane as she was appointed. But to say the report is final, which it was not, now it should go to the judge. And those recommendations have not been put forward.
Yeah,
it's just now it is the judge that then must decide the future of this report. So this report was then not final. In fact, why do you put it out there if it was not final?
Cindy, there is no report, as I've said from the beginning. There's recommendations. There's a recommendation, but there's three elements about this whole process. One, you cannot, as a public protector, dictate terms, conditions, and procedures of an independent judicial commission of inquiry. It's called an independent judicial commission of inquiry. It must be absolutely independent from any other influence outside that commission itself. Now, once you start saying Treasury must fund that commission, you start saying this is how the judge should conduct the investigation. It's no longer independent because there's an external influence. That's one element. The second element is when we sit here and we look at the recommendations which were done there, we are talking of a state capture. A state, as my colleague has said, it has three tiers of government, But we are not sitting with a state capture report here. We are sitting with a report as a nation of the Guptas capturing the head of state or the head of state and the family. That's what the report is all about, and those who are close to the head of state. When we talk of state capture, you are talking of the three tiers, you are talking of the economy.
But for the benefit of our viewers, not to be too technical, let's just deal with the relationship between the Guptas and President Zuma, according to the Public Protector's report, in that there is the uncertainty, or it's inconclusive. There's the maybe, could have, not entirely, it could constitute fraud, or it may or may not.
For instance, let me give an example. That report has been monitoring how many times Minister Van Rooyen has been in and out of the Gupta's houses. But the important thing is that to understand that he may very well have been there, but on which hat was he wearing? Do we know that he was there as an MK person to go and look for funds from these business people that have got money? Do we know that does the cell phone say anything about that? So the fact that we've been there up and down actually means nothing, because people have got various hats. What hat was he wearing when he was going up and down there?
But despite that, Cindy, we have a cabinet that consists of over 40 ministers. There's 3 ministers that are being mentioned in this, of which one is said to have declined the process. You understand? Out of 40, how do we come to a conclusion that the state was captured when 3 ministers were seen visiting the family? One of those ministers came out and said, I refuse the offense of what now. I don't want to dwell much into the relationship between the head of state as well as the Gupta family. I'm looking at the state as a whole, whether our state is captured. You cannot use public funds in this instance and say the state is captured when you are not looking at other factors of capturing the state. We cannot ignore the fact that white capital that we saw marching today in the streets of South Africa, for the very first time in the last 22 years, we saw white executives marching in the streets of Pretoria. What is the interest? Where have they been? We've got
They're there to save SA.
To save SA. Which SA? Which SA?
From what?
Is from what?
Save it from
noble cause.
When white
Somebody needs to stand up and do the right thing.
To save it from transformation.
When we start by doing the right thing, we should have started by white capital saying what the Freedom Charter is saying. The people shall share equitably in the resources of the country. This white capital, this 81 CEOs, of which 60 of them are reporting to England. Are they sharing the resources of the country equitably to the poor black majority when they were sitting in boardrooms today that were ventilated with mineral water, while majority black poor people were on the streets of Tshwane singing and toying for something that they did not even understand what is it? That is the real state capital capture. We cannot focus on one family to capture the state. If that is the case, then we are in serious trouble as a nation to say one small family. When the Rupert, let's look at the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers of this country. They own 35,000 white families of this country. They own more than 70% of the wealth of the country. For me, that is actual and true state capture.
Genco having a cost-plus model at ESCOM, that is state capture. Maria Ramos signing 75 to 85% capacity of Transnet to Anglo-American only, that is state capture. So I think we mustn't be confused. As we sit here and now, black people in this country own only 3% of the JSE. 97% of this economy is owned by white monopoly capital. These are the people that have captured the state.
Let's find out if Thuli Madonsela or the Office of the Public Protector has the powers to investigate cases prior to the democracy, Mr. Omar, because that's one of the reasons where former PP was saying that her hands are bound. She doesn't have the capacity nor the mandate to investigate cases of state capture beyond, or rather, prior to 1994.
We must examine the conduct of Advocate Thuli Madonsela with reference to her remarks publicly made before her term of office ended. She resolved approximately a month or two before her term of office ends that she will definitely complete her report on the allegations of state capture. When she did this, I proposed that her decision should be taken on review because she was undermining her successor. In her recommendations, she does not only undermine her successor by having postponed the proceedings, she imposes duties on a judge and she casts aspersions at other judges. Let's examine this. She says, a judge solely selected by the Chief Justice who shall provide one name to the President. That suggests that more than one judge would mean that the President would appoint a judge who's favorable to the President. And there's been no allegation, no discussion or debate with the JSC or any of the judge presidents where any of the judges of our country are influenced favorable to one or other member of our executive. And then Madonsela goes further. She says here in paragraph 8.8, the Commission of Inquiry to complete its task and to present the report with findings and recommendations to the President within 180 days. That is 6 months. A simple magistrate court trial of assault rarely finishes in 6 months. Murder cases take far longer than 6 months. Throughout the world, you will remember the extradition proceedings involving Shireen Divani in London took far longer than 6 months. So what Thuli Madonsela has revealed in the report is that she, with respect, has done this investigation and has prepared a report. It was done with the aim of winning the favor of some or other group who are unfavorable to President Zuma continuing his term in office as president. The repeated cliche, Zuma must resign, the repeated cliche, Zuma had a very thin case, does not take into account the fact that President Zuma retains the support of the majority of the people in South Africa. The DA and those other lapdogs of the DA want to displace the voice and the choice of the people with their choice. They want to rule our country using a Chapter 9 institution. And Thuli Madonsela, with respect, this report, her recommendations are mere confirmation of this.
All right, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. Gert van der Merwe, Ogbay attorney, is on the line. Thanks for your patience, Gert. Just the reaction from the family shareholders with the state capture or state of capture report. Hi, Gert.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for the... Hi, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So the reaction from
Can you hear me?
The stakeholders. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Cindy, we are happy with the report. You will recall that we've said over the past month that we will apply for review of the report if it makes adverse conclusions against the family or the companies involved in the group. We saw today that the conclusion of the public protector is merely that she collated a bundle of facts and she has a suspicion that there might be something wrong. She never said that she ever had any opportunity to obtain evidence from the family, and as a result thereof, a judge must now consider this.
Okay, now talk us through the process going forward with the judicial inquiry, in the sense that obviously there'd be forensic evidence that is required, that is beyond any doubt. So in terms of preparing or just maybe satisfying the appetite for some quarters to believe that there is untoward behavior, there is corruption, all of those things, there would be a paper trail and hopefully the family would be vindicated. So talk us through the process from now until the 180 days.
You must understand that a lot of things must happen. I understand the report to recommend that funding must now be made available by Treasury. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how that's going to pan out. But then, in that event, a judge must be nominated and appointed. I don't know how long that is going to take. That judge will then have to appoint a team to assist him. I don't know how long that is going to take. That team must then familiarize themselves with the report, not the report, the bundle of evidence prepared by Advocate Madonsela. You must read the conclusion carefully. It says that the judge must then consider all the facts, not only what is in her report, also the information that she obtained and collated over a period of 6 or 7 months. I think the 180-day period is a pipe dream. I don't think that will happen. But the fact is that my clients now have the opportunity to present their version. We've been clear on the fact that we've not been allowed the opportunity to give our version, and we were unhappy that if this report was a final report, which it is not, that we would not be in a position to give our version, and we found that strange. We've always advocated that we want to have our day in court, and at least this report gives us a day in court.
All right, so is Oak Bay planning on taking legal action?
No, we at this stage, and I must say that what I say now is subject to a proper perusal of the report. The report consists of about 355 pages. Now we received it this afternoon. On my reading and my initial view, I do not intend to advise the clients to take legal action against the consequences of the report. But what we will do, and that is what we've promised all along, what we will do is we will have our evidence, our documents, our facts in order, so that when we now at last called to a judge, and we are happy that there's a judge, because a judge understands the law, we will be able to give our version, and then a judge can take a decision on that.
All right, Ger, just to